Welcome to Class 5 of the Character Sheet course put on by Guild of the Rose. In order to join live class sessions and a cohort to call your own, please visit us at guildoftheRose.org. Originally, this course, the Character Sheet course, was going to be 4 classes long. And the end goal was to generate a list of all the features you want to have, and then point you at all the other guild classes, which would be more comprehensive towards accomplishing specific goals. However, I decided I would be remiss if I didn't equip you with at least some problem solving and goal setting tools. And my favorite is a technique called Murphyjitsu. I have modified it a bit and added a few other tools to the original version in order to try to make it more comprehensive. Specifically, I added SMART goals to the beginning and a fail better activity at the end. However, the original activity remains broadly similar. Before we dive into the actual Murphyjitsu activity itself, the first step is to pick a goal that you have. In this case, we'll start with the top priority feature on your character sheet. We're going to give it something called the SMART goals treatment. SMART, the acronym, stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. We want to make our goal specific enough that we can tell when we have succeeded or when we have failed. We want a goal to be measurable so we can figure out our progress as we begin trying to make it happen. Human brains are very difficult to get motivated unless we have very rapid feedback. So having something to measure is very useful. Also, the thing needs to be attainable. Not everything is possible, and knowing when a goal is beyond your current capabilities and resources is the first step to figuring out how to tackle the issue. You also want this to be relevant. I highly doubt that this goal of yours is a terminal goal. It is trying to satisfy something else in your life. And so you want to make sure that you're not just pursuing this blindly. If this is a thing that you want for the sake of it, that's fine, but be careful that you're not chasing something because you want to seek social approval of some kind, or because you think you're obligated to, or you're falling victim to the sunk cost fallacy. Try to dig down into why you're trying to do this. There's a really great activity I'll link below called goal factoring if you're unsure on this particular part. Time-bound. Goals without an end are called hobbies. And hobbies are great, but I imagine there's not a whole lot of those on your feature list. We want to choose things that have an actual endpoint, or at least have a point where we can safely say that we've accomplished the thing we're trying to accomplish. And finally, after we have given our goal the SMART treatment, figuring out timelines and specifics and measurements, we want to figure out a way to monitor our progress. You don't want to just end up going aimlessly through this. You want to figure out some way that you can give yourself good feedback as you proceed. For example, if you're wanting to lose weight, you want to figure out a way to measure that. The obvious way is using a scale to measure your body weight. If you want to become wealthy, you might want to make sure that you're constantly facing your bank account balance or your financial statements of some kind. So there's a few questions that I would like you to ask after giving each goal its SMART treatment. Question 1. Where do you need to start allocating your time? How can every day be a building block to the future that you want? Question 2. What can you do right now? Question 3. what can you do tomorrow? Question 4, what can you do this week? And question 5, how can you cheat without compromising the goal itself? And question 6, who has done this before and can give you information to shorten the time to completion? So I want you to use this framework on all your features, on the features of your entire character sheet. However, at the very least, I want you to continue the rest of this activity on your top 3 priority features. So the next step is what we would classically call the Murphyjitsu activity. Based on your SMART goals treatment, you should have a general idea of what the very next step is in order to accomplish this goal and acquire this feature. So visualize putting this action into motion and then ask, how surprised would I be if this plan failed? If you'd be shocked, then you're done. Otherwise, continue on to step 4, which is also called a premortem. So you've imagined the future and your plan didn't work. What specifically happened? How did this fail? Once you have figured that out, the very next step is you need to ask yourself, what action could you have taken to prevent this particular failure mode? Visualize taking this preemptive action and then ask, what comes next? Have you successfully defused the danger? Did you perhaps create a new weak point that you now need to patch? And finally, repeat that process 3 to 5 times. Try thinking about anything else that could go wrong. What could have prevented that? What we're trying to do here is we're trying to battle harden our plan against happenstance and poor habits. Remember that this should be very quick. These iterations should take maybe a few minutes total. And finally, this is an activity that I added. Not my invention, but I am the one that added it to the Murphyjitsu activity. I call this the fail better activity. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to revisit every failure mode that you discovered, every problem you encountered. Let's say that your plan to prevent those failure modes fails. How can you repair the damage, even a little bit, for each one of those failure modes? Who could you ask for help if your plan to prevent that failure mode fails? Write this all out on a single page. On another page, write out what the benefits could be of an attempt or even a partial success. So even if you attempt to put this plan into motion and you fail, are there still benefits that you acquired from even making the attempt? Or is there a benefit to be acquired through mostly getting there, or successfully patching particular failure modes but not others? And finally, on a third page, write out the cost of inaction, the cost of not doing this at all. We tend to be very loss averse, so if we can motivate ourselves by pointing out and eliciting the cost of not trying in the first place, this can be a helpful activity for stimulating that motivation. Think about the costs in that to you emotionally or physically, even financially, over the course of 3 different time spans: 6 months, 1 year, and 3 years. So with that, in recap, we have learned to apply SMART goals to a particular activity, a particular feature that we're trying to acquire. We have figured out how to battle harden our plans, and I highly recommend making this a cooperative activity, either looking to your cohort in the guild or someone you trust in your personal life that you can consult with on the most important plans that you put into place. And finally, we've learned how to cope with failure. I find that writing out the worst case scenarios does tend to help with the emotional cost associated with trying to put these plans into action, and also eliciting the cost of inaction, because the last thing you need is to elicit all the costs of all the costs of failure, but then just have that cause you to lose all motivation to even try in the first place. So with that, I am very glad that you all have taken this course. I have no doubt you'll become highly impressive individuals, and I look forward to seeing you in the guild.